We've got a problem now in our visual culture in that everything is present. And as a result, people growing up in this society have no visual cultural reference historically. It's kind of scary. It flattens our culture out. We have less and less reference. Everything is present. And people growing in it just don't know that, oh, that's a beautiful Victorian typeface and I should feel this sort of thing about it. Somebody might pull up a typeface from the 20s, I think would be one called Hobo. And you'd know it if you saw it. But if you don't have the reference, the cultural reference that Hobo represents in the 1920s, then it's just this thing all by itself. And it might be stimulating and interesting, but it stops there. It doesn't have the depth of meaning that it would have if you had a reference to, oh, that's the 1920s. So I can reference all of the stuff that went on in the 1920s just from a piece of type. So you got to find other ways to try and get to some sort of deeper meaning. For our books, I'm more interested in creating an experience or a world or, I want to say an extension of the reader, but that's not quite right. I want to create an experience that completely supports the concept of the book. I think most people think of a book, they approach a book as a series of panels. I think that's probably fine for a lot of the books. I'm more interested in treating books as a time-based medium. But I think that there's a next step that could be explored, and I haven't completely defined it for myself yet. That's where it's an experience. It's a time-based experience. It's like the difference between a still and motion picture, right? A painting is a moment, and a still is a moment. Video is time-based, right? And like music is time-based. You have to have that element of time, and that element of time creates meaning. And what happens when you try and create a book that's a series of panels is you're missing out on the most powerful part of the book, which is the time-based thing, because somebody opening the book, the first page, right, that stays in their memory, and that first page sets a tone. The big thing for me is the difference between decoration and illustration. But there's a problem with illustration. And the problem with illustration is then you have a book with two parallel storylines. Sometimes it works perfectly, and the illustrations are as much a part of the book as the text is. And I think probably everybody's had the experience of opening a book, maybe a new edition of some text that they love. The illustrations are not sympathetic to the text. That's confusing for the participant in the book. So one way that you can avoid that is by, instead of using illustrations, you use decorations, where you create a visual experience that's sympathetic to the text but is not giving you a parallel storyline. If you're going to set type by hand, you're limited by what type you have, right? It's a different paradigm than getting on a computer and getting into a design or a layout program. You choose, hopefully you choose a typeface that's sympathetic to the content of the piece. It's not just the linear experience of open the book and get to the end of the book. It's also this transgenerational experience. Because you open a book that was printed in 1780 and somebody sprinkled with camphor, and you can smell the camphor, then it's not just their words that relate you to the book. It's this physical action that somebody took on that object that is important, I think.